Hello, everyone. This is Sriram here, and I'm the product marketing manager here at SuperOps. So, thank you so much for joining in us on this webinar. This is going to be a really interesting session. So, we're going to be talking about something new, something you've never heard of, which is AI. I guess everywhere that's the only topic that's been going around, right? Every time you scroll through LinkedIn, Reddit, any forums or Facebook groups, that's what everybody talks about these days. But this session is not just going to be like a long yarn or a huge message in terms of saying, hey, uh, AI is changing the world, AI is replacing folks and all of it. This session is actually an honest attempt to, cut through all the noise and see where AI can actually add value to MSPs and IT teams. So we are going to probe deep into the pain points or problem areas that MSPs or IT teams have today that sort of, stunts their growth or sort of forms as a roadblock and say, hey, these are areas I think AI can contribute effectively so that I can move to the next stage and so on. So we are going to be exploring that. So if you are an MSP or somebody who's running IT who's been completely overwhelmed with all the AI chatter around, this session is sort of going to be your starter guide for you to understand where you can begin with. So before implementing AI or jumping onto the whole bandwagon, you need to understand the practical implications of AI, where it will fit in my MSP's workflow or an IT workflow, so that you can make better use of it. So these are some of the areas or angles that we're going to explore in today's session. And we have two amazing speakers before we get into it. So I have Devon and Damo with me. So somebody who's been running the MSP day to day and somebody who's been actively building the products to power the whole MSP and IT operations. So I would just want them to introduce themselves. So go for it, Devon. Just talk about your business, where you're from, and what you do, and so on.
Sure. Thank you, Sriram. I am Devon Fata. I am the owner of Square Clover. We are neither Square nor Clover, the payment processing companies. We get that a lot. Square Clover is a managed services company out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We've been around since about 2007 or so. And we've been down this journey a little bit now, I think, as most MSPs have on the AI side of the world. We've begun some implementation. Excited to talk about what some of that progress has looked like for us, and a lot of where we see the future heading there.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for that, Devon. So, Tamu, let's hear it from you.
Awesome. I'm Damo, Vasudevan, Damo for short. I'm the VP of products here at SuperOps. And as I said, we're building for AI for the past few years, trying to build a platform as well as agentic and new technologies for MSPs and IT teams. It's been an excellent journey, not just of like building product that I've been doing for a while. It's more of trying to understand how MSPs and IT teams, especially MSP and IT teams, form such a nice community and talk through and try and find out their problems. So the learning that I'm expressing here is mainly talking to very many MSPs and IT teams like yourself. So looking forward to this webinar.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. I think this is a really interesting panel, right? Because you have somebody who's actively in the business right now, like grinding through all the, um, challenges that the space has, and somebody who's building products that counters it and helps them scale and so on. Like the reason I'm telling this is interesting is personally me, I've always played the part of the bridge where I take the feedback from the MSPs and IT teams who work that I work with closely, and then take that feedback back to the product team in terms of saying, hey, this is where the problem is. These are all the key challenges and expectations. So let's build towards these goals. But it's interesting for me because we have both of them in the same room right now, which is going to make for a pretty interesting conversation. So you can directly hear from the horse's mouth, and both the horses are in the same conversation as such. So that's pretty exciting. And like we have good bunch of attendees, so like apart from whatever we discuss, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. We'll try to address them as many as possible towards the end, so or as we go through the session, if there's something relevant, we'll try to address that as well. So just wanted to put that out there. And this is not, like I said, this is not going to be a long monologue as such. This is like a fireside chat. We're going to keep the uh, conversation going on all of these areas that I mentioned right now. So let's get started. Amazing. So the first and foremost thing, before getting into the whole AI or the agentic AI, its implications and so on, let's start with the current growth challenges that an MSP or an IT team has. Like, what do you see as the biggest challenge here? What are some of the things that have changed in the recent few years in an MSP business or an IT team? So let's start from there. Let's see the major concerns that's bothering an MSP or an IT team, and then we can move from there. So let's hear it from Devon first. So come on, Devon. So we want you to share. What are you going through? What are the changes that you're seeing? What are the trends that you're finding very important in the space that you're in?
Sure. You know, from my perspective, I don't know if I would say that the challenges we're facing today are inherently all that different than the ones that we've been facing for the last several years, right? Or maybe for as far back as MSPs go. To me, it boils down to probably the basics: talent, time, and probably tool overload, if nothing else. I can tell you on the talent side, it's continually getting harder to, I think, find good talent in the marketplace. And then even when you get that good talent, I think that there's always that constant balance, right, between keeping them challenged, avoiding burnout. Um, there's a lot that goes into that space. On
Uh,
the, I'm sorry, go for it.
no, 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 no. You can go on.
Yeah. On the time side, I'd say MSPs are inherently have a bit of an issue with time. They're built on these models that as we scale, we need more developers or more um, security analysts or whoever it's going to be, some IT tech or operations manager to help scale up to the fact that we have more clients, we're billing more hours, whatever it may be. But we can't just throw hours at a problem to solve it. I think scaling without increasing headcount is probably always been one of MSP's biggest challenges. And doing that right, getting in the right automation, the right processes that allow us to do that. That's kind of a key challenge that I think we've always faced. And maybe to our discussion today, AI will help out with a lot of that. It's early, right? So we'll see. And then the last thing I think I mentioned was tools, right? We're always juggling multiple systems. Every tool that we have is usually doing part of a job, maybe not always playing nicely together with other tools. So we're always trying to, I think, simplify what happens on that end. I think the more chaos you bring into a system, the more variables you bring in, the more likely things are to go wrong. So the more we can do to simplify that, usually the better off we are.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Devin, for sharing that. Because I found it pretty interesting. This is one thing that everywhere when I go to a summit or when I go to an event or when I talk to an MSP, this has been the constant, which is like MSPs or IT teams are always asked to do more with less. Saying like, hey, can you deliver this? Can you deliver that? But you cannot keep throwing hours or people at the problem every time because as you scale, that's going to be a constant concern as such. And like one of the things that happen basically when you start scaling is the fact that you have a lot more requests coming in with the same amount of people that you're already working with, and that sort of creates an issue. Like it's interesting that you mentioned burnout as well, so we need to be mindful of how we are utilizing our technicians, ensuring that they don't go into that loop saying, hey, I'm getting paid as much as I was getting paid last week, but my work has been doubled or tripled right now, which isn't fair for me. So that's an honest take as well, right? Because you you cannot keep having your technicians be in that state, because only if they're happy, your end users are happy, and it's a successful organization as such. Because one of the interesting anecdotes that an MSP always told me was like one of the MSPs told me was like I used to wonder saying, hey, so MSPs have been constantly like fighting issues. There are issues that keep happening every month and they keep fixing it. I was like, oh, so maybe if an MSP is fixed like 100 issues this month, he's done really great. But his counter argument was a great MSP is somebody who you don't talk to at all. Like that's what I've heard, which is like an MSP success is actually measured by the uptime and not the downtime as such. Saying if you've called your MSP only for your monthly upgrades and not for multiple issues, then I think you're already a successful MSP or an IT team as such. Which brings me to the last point that you mentioned, which is the whole tool sprawl that you are referring to. So people have disconnected systems, like you have your RMM speaking a separate language, your PSA speaking a separate language, which leads to a lot of firefighting every time, which is when something break, you go ahead and then fix it. So being more proactive or like having that predictive intelligence is something that's like, seen very crucial, because that's why the MSPs are paid the big bucks as such. So that's really an interesting perspective, Devon. So let's hear it from Damo right now. So he's been working with a lot of MSPs and IT teams, and he recently had our customer advisory board where we actually wanted to sit down with the customers and the you know prospects to actively know what their challenges are. So he's somebody with a lot of experience. So go for it, Damo.
Yeah. Thanks, Sriram. Actually, what you and Devon were echoing is actually what we keep hearing from MSPs year on year. Actually, the challenges that the MSPs go through, if you add like sales and marketing on top of what you guys already discussed, right? Getting to be proactive, juggling different tools, or like technician burnout is the standard. This is the top five themes, right? That they've been trying to solve for many years, in my opinion, right? And again, different tools come and solve a different part of their problem and then you try to put all together and think that it's all going to work together, and you end up spending more time, right? So that's in some ways, I would argue that what you guys discussed are the top points. The true reason for an MSP actually, yes, is to provide service delivery, but actually also want to grow and be profitable as a business, right? So acquiring a customer, being able to do, sales, marketing, and profitability analysis is actually becoming more and more relevant at this time. So I think that is something that a lot of the MSPs were thinking, who only mature MSPs after a while would think now. Very what I'm hearing, a lot of the guys getting started are actually trying to figure out what is their best time to get started. How should they go about doing this as well? So it's a good trend that I'm seeing here as well. People looking at profitability, looking at addressing those growth challenges, but profitability and other calculations that you can do within your system is possible, but to do sales and marketing you need time, and the only way you get time as a small MSP is if you get into proactive mode, right? So it's all sort of linked, right? With the symptom that you see and the real problem is sort of connected there. But yeah, you guys covered a lot of it in pretty much good detail.
Yeah, I think that's interesting as well. Like interesting segue into another larger problem, which is like apart from throwing hours or people at the problem, if we keep fixing the problems, we don't have time to do any of the strategy. Like if I am an MSP at like 1 million revenue, and if my goal is to go after 2 or 3 million, I need to sit down, look at the larger picture, and change my strategy so that I go after it. I don't do the same thing every year and be stuck at a certain point. And I think that sort of, has been a major reason or a concern that's stunting growth for a lot of MSPs that I worked with in the past as well. So uh, that's a great point, Tamo, that you had mentioned. So, like, that is one of
Yeah.
the key
The, oth-
challenges.
the
Mhm.
other thing that I think is on top of this, guys, that I think that we should discuss is how the client's expectation itself has changed in the past
Mhm.
years, right? Previously, they were fine paying you for when you come in and do your work. They were fine with interacting with you as a human being, which is perfectly, continuing to happen right at this point. They wanted to be a service relationship with a person who can get up and, share a coffee, lunch, handshake, and talk. But the expectations on how you deliver that service, especially with the recent trends in AI and ChatGPT and everything, why can't I just type everything and just get my work done, right? So the expectation that you deliver a higher quality of service, I would say, has increased significantly in the last year, and that's one big trend that I feel MSP should quickly learn to adapt to, because the ones that sort of like adapt and grow in that direction are going to acquire a lot more customers.
Yeah, and then there's also a piece of that that I think comes with an amount of being proactive as an MSP. We'll go through seasons, right, where we are very reactive, and you're all just floating, right, answering tickets, I think. And then there are times where you have a moment to be a little bit more proactive with your clients. And I think Sriram, you hit the nail on the head there, where a good MSP is not one you should have to deal with very often. And in part, that's been a struggle for us at times, or we've very plainly had clients who have said, "Hey, we don't really interact with you guys that much." And well, that's a good thing, right? Now, were we proactive enough in maybe sending out reporting, or explaining the threats that we're monitoring, or stopping, right? Or the security protocols that you have in place because of us that are allowing you to not need some of that support. So there's times and ways where I think you get to do more or less of that, depending on how busy things get. But we have a big band-aiding, as I call it, is a part of what we do, and can often take a lot of our time. And it's not just that. Um, we have to band-aid to a way that makes sense for a user, because to Domino, your point, users are getting more savvy as AI becomes a little bit smarter, as as our customers are exposed to more information. It gives them a chance to ask, well, why this way and why not a different way, right? And sometimes there's a conversation to be had there. Other times, maybe we've done this before and we have an idea of why it should be done a certain way. And sometimes for us, that means we take a customer approach, and we, as I call it, put a Band-Aid on, and eventually that Band-Aid's gonna break, and we're gonna need to put a new one on, and kind of go through that rigmarole a few times, right? But that's the name of the game at the end of the day with MSPs, at least to some extent.
Yeah,
Amazing,
I think
amazing.
what I heard in backstage also sort of echoed that, Devon. So what I heard from a lot of the larger guys also is that they're becoming a little bit more strategic, thanks to, I mean, whoever's embracing AI even a little bit, right? They're able to get a bit more strategic, proactive recommendation. So it's more of a different conversation, and this is all high value, right? So they can, customers also don't want to like, they want to pay for the value that they see. So this is all good high value conversation. And I think what Paxade was talking about is calling in them like the future of
Intelligence
MSPs,
provider, MIP.
intelligence providers. Yeah, yeah. So you
Yeah.
guys, MSPs, like, no longer like services. It's all about like intelligence, like knowing and giving the right advice at the right time, given there's such a different AI threat landscape. I think is going to be very valuable. I'm sure a lot of MSPs are already embracing that.
I
Yes,
agree.
thank you so much for bringing that up, Damo, because like I wanted to discuss that specific point at a later point in time, which is managed intelligence provider, because like uh, like you said, people are becoming tech savvy. They have access to all of this, and like the expectations from what an MSP has to deliver has changed. So you're not just a service provider anymore. Like you got to grow to a level where you're like an intelligence provider as such. So we'll dive into that a bit, what it means and how that changes. But before that, let's get to a starting point here on AI assets. So we've discussed a lot of great things about the challenges, the key factors that stunt the growth and so on. So these are amazing points, amazing observations, which brings us to the most important part right now, which is where AI can help. Because I think only people who don't acknowledge the fact that like AI isn't a buzzword anymore are stagnant as such, because it's everywhere right now. We're not looking at it from a buzzword perspective, or it's just one of those hype cycles. We are at an inflection point, just like how we moved on from a spreadsheet and a Gmail to a ticketing system. We are starting to adopt AI because it is the next technology leap that we've come towards. But like right now, let's start from, if I am an MSP or if I am an IT team, where do I see myself implementing AI? What are the areas in which it can, help me grow, help me sort of address some of the challenges that we recently spoke, so that, like again, like I said, the purpose of this whole chat is to, dive into those specific areas, so that I can see if I'm implementing AI for my organization based on the problems that I have, and it's not a namesake chatbot that I have attached onto it because everybody's using AI right now. I'm gonna use AI as well. So let's focus on that. Dama, let's get started with you this time. So I want you to tell me where do you see AI fitting into an MSP or an IT team's workflow, more specifically saying, hey, these are the immediate pain points that it can address. This is a huge chunk of work that it can offload off an MSP or an IT team so that it fuels their growth.
See, given a lot of MSPs right now are hearing the buzz, I think it's a good time to also like have clarity on why do we believe this is the inflection point for AI? Right? There's been like different hype cycles before with AI and automation and everything working a certain way. But everything, even if you take like the last hyper automation cycle where people used to be able to click on screens and do things, it was still brittle. It never really went past a deterministic mode. What I mean is you always had to tell the AI what to do, and it will do it if you give it a condition, right? So that was like automation on steroids at best. What we have right now is, especially with the advent of LLM and ChatGPT, the fact is that we have better data, better models, better ways to attack the MSP workflows, and an AI that adapts based on feedback. So it's almost like a inflection point where we can actually believe that it can solve things at scale. It does hallucinate from time to time, but if we install the guardrails the right way, actually it is a great point to embrace. And that's why the you're seeing the whole hype explode even more than it did before, right? By all these AI companies are millions and millions of people adopting it every day, from the enterprise all the way down. Right. So that is one clarification that we need. Right now, this AI hype seems to be a lot more real, so we should embrace, right? But where do we go attack within an MSP, right? Easiest, highest, I would argue ticket triage. Go after your tickets, because that's where your gold, that's where all your data is. When we're looking at how to approach, deploying AI in SuperOps, the one area that I feel every MSP should be looking at is ticketing. Ticketing, and if you do ticket triage properly itself, it gives you so much time back that you can figure out how to do a lot of the other strategic stuff. It gives you time to think of strategic stuff, right? Another area is patching. Patching is something that happening at scale, doing things with multiple, maybe thousands of laptops at the same time. It's never been an actually good human problem to even solve, right? You have to deploy, test in this era, you got to go figure this out. This was something that is designed for the AI right now, because it can stay up and check, and it can actually understand when people come on board and adjust schedules according to how you define SLAs, right? So ticket triage, patch rollouts, summarization, just the way you converse with your customer, right? In different languages and different tones, that itself gives a different level of maturity or the impression that you give your customer. Now with AI coming in and helping with summarization, recommendation, and alert prioritization, you actually have a way of having a very consistent customer experience as an MSP, which is really, it's really appreciated by your actual end customer as well. And all this you can do with agentic AI right now and improve it over time so that you can create the best MSP that you can be.
Amazing. Yeah, because you've brought in two important sections of an MSP process, which is on the ticketing side on the PSA, and one with respect to the endpoint control and visibility, which is patching. That's what most people want to do, and it's very interesting because your help desk or ticketing is the one space where I've seen to be very crucial at the same time, an area where there is a lot of grunt work and manual repetitive work involved. And like you said, I've seen this be like a real game changer, which is like the recommended solutions or a prioritization based on what's necessary to address instantly, because that is something that has always been a problem from whatever I've heard, which is like technicians who are in the front line tend to fix the same issue every now and then. So like taking that off the technician's plate or an MSP's plate has been a huge game changer, because suddenly when they see their ticket queue, there's like 40 50 tickets that's there assigned under their name that they need to address it today, which is sometimes like when I used to, like when I started out, I used to work in support, and every time I open my help desk and I see 40 tickets under my name, I start panicking. So with AI, I think that has drastically come down, because you don't need to handhold folks anymore, saying if you bring in a new technician, they already have access to whatever you have solved before, so that they don't have to sit and break their heads about the issue that has already been fixed by your organization. Say they can just implement that a solution there. And like the communication with the clients, that has been a game changer as well. Like it might feel like a very small thing, because a lot of larger MSPs I've seen sort of tend to outsource their L1 and L2 help desk to a different organization, or they have technicians working for them across the country. Like sometimes like an MSP in USA has technicians in LATAM regions who takes care of certain clients and so on. Like they are technically really sound, but the problem that they have is communicating that to the client, saying like traditionally what used to happen is somebody writes the solution for it, somebody takes that, translates it, like makes it really nice for the clients, and then have it send over. But that's not happening anymore. So like all of that communication change, or like ensuring that I document the work that I do, which is again like a really small thing, but when I'm working on 10 different things right now, I don't have time to sit down and say, hey, this is the work that I did, and add that as a time entry so that I can get paid accordingly. So right now,
Yeah.
simplifying and automating all of that has been like a real game changer as such. So that's interesting. And I
There's
would,
also scripting, but I'll let
yeah, Devon,
also go and give his perspective because
yeah,
scripting is something that's also been widely used by many of our customers, and where that comes in is actually lets you become more proactive because a lot of the time the scripts are the ones that actually control your whole team's deployment and how work gets done. So having a way in which you can generate, understand, deploy, test, and then distribute the scripts to your team so they can make it work actually has also been widely adopted, and that's also another area they should pick up. But over
Yeah,
to you, Devon.
great point. Well, or how effective it gets done, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You brought up a good point about the inflection point, right? Where I think to me, it seems like it's happening now because clients are not, right? Businesses in general are only going to scale AI if they trust it. And I
Yeah.
think we're beginning to finally hit that point where that you can see that trust happening pretty readily. I think I saw last I read it was something like 70, 73, 83 75 to 83% of small, medium businesses have adopted AI to some extent. Now, I'll grant you most of that is, hey, write an email for me, right? Or some of the very top level of what
Mhm.
AI can do. But adoption, even among companies who have not used AI and have chosen not to use AI over the last 18 months has been significant from some of the stats that I've seen. I think you're just seeing it across the board, and yeah, to your point, there's a lot of ways that I think that comes into um, what's the low-hanging fruit for MSPs, right? If we're going to throw in AI, where can we immediately have some value with it? Uh, to me, I think that again, it kind of goes back to that eating the hours piece a little bit. I think you hit it right with ticket summaries, basic documentation, often even internal processes, right, that are not client facing. So for us, writing PowerShell scripts all the way through to helping us with onboarding or some of those mass I'll say repetitive, somewhat simple procedures that need to happen. Those are the pieces that I think we've at least started with. It's not a silver bullet, right? At least not yet. There's a lot of problems, I'll say, in the AI sphere, at least in terms of doing everything right, or even setting everything up to work the way it needs to have agentic AI working in an agent capacity for you. Sometimes that can be complex. There are still processes that go along with that. And if most of the MSPs out there like us are in a Microsoft environment, sometimes there's additional complexity there just from an over engineering standpoint, I think sometimes. So it's not perfect is my point, but it is a part of building that stack to move us into that MIP territory, like you were talking about the managed intelligence provider, right? Moving away from managing devices to managing these agents, right? And allowing these agents to then do what they need to do. Um, I haven't seen a perfect solution yet, but I have seen us test a lot of different solutions with varying amounts of success that have brought us to, I think, a place now where we're more readily offering some of that, and some of that is a bit more client facing, and we're getting more into that. But some of it is equally behind the scenes, I'll say. So it really you can hit it from both sides, I think.
Amazing, Devin. So that's really an exciting point because uh like whatever you mentioned, right? Because companies and MSPs or IT teams have slowly started adopting AI because they've started to trust it. Because one of the things that has happened in the last 18 months is because they've started seeing results as well. So, like you said, be it very basic, something like writing an email or like ensuring that the responses are documented properly and so on. So they've started implementing it and they've started seeing that as sort of an advantage. Like earlier, when the whole hype cycle started, the one question that everybody had on their mind is, hey, is this going to replace an L1 technician? Now everybody's not going to know everything and all of that. So I think that point has become redundant right now because, like you said, without the right context or insight, like an AI cannot function on its own. So always has to be that human in the loop who's constantly moderating what goes through and what sort of actions that an AI does so that it can deliver some value specific to the customer and it needn't be generic as such. And people have slowly started realizing that it is saved me a lot of time. It is going to save me a lot of resources as well. So something like our CEO used to mention as well, which is like AI is never going to replace an MSP or an IT team, but it's definitely going to replace MSPs or IT teams who don't start adopting AI because they're going to have that competitive edge over the rest of the folks in the market. So that's an interesting point. And Devin, I want to probe you a little further and want to get like other opportunity areas from you. So apart from whatever we've discussed so far, like I want you to talk to me about like in your current operations, where do you see opportunities for AI to step in and sort of make the process even more seamless, or take some time off your plate and let the execution be done by AI and so on. So future.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you know what, and maybe we could talk about this a little bit as it comes to the super ops side of AI, because I know that there's a piece there that we have access to. I don't think we've even leveraged it really to the way that we should. So I know that there's some opportunity in that world. But I would say you know, for us, it's been a twofold. So again, there's layers to the adoption. I think that happened. So it was a very basic call to action for me with the team, I think a couple months ago, to just say everybody needs to be using AI every day. And frankly, I don't care what you do with it. I don't care if it's just to write an email, just be using it, right? And then we've gotten past that now and slowly in stages, right, to a point where I've asked us to isolate those repetitive tasks. And I think often, yeah, there is that apprehension among teams, right, of is this replacing me? And I think you have to approach it, especially as a business owner or as a leader within your organization, to say, um, uh, obviously in a way that's true to the vision that you have, to be able to say something to the effect of, you know, our goal is to replace the tedious parts of your work, right? It's not to replace who you are, what you do within the organization. It's probably to pivot you into being able to focus on some of those higher level points. So, you know, to your ask, where do we focus AI right now? Big part of it is onboarding. And I should mention, right, so our Square Clover has three verticals, right? We'll do, of course, our managed service work. We do VoIP phone systems, and we do structured cabling. Not that uncommon among MSPs, right, wherever your offerings may lie. But I think that each of those presents different areas where AI can and cannot help. Structured cabling naturally is very physical until the Tesla robots take over. That part is still very human driven. However, we have quotes that we can be sending out, and a lot of that can be driven by AI. So we will use models that we've begun to create internally. You know, we're working on building out our own AI workspace. And as a part of that, yeah, the assistance with quotes is big. The assistance with scripting is very large. The assistance with any repetitive task that specifically, right, I think about onboarding is always the first thing that comes to mind for me. Loading on RMM tools, you know, getting individual devices up to where they need to be, um, running any sort of check for drivers and updates. All of those pieces are things that are pretty cut and dry, right? It's you do a process, and then based on the outcome of that process, you either do nothing or you take an action, and you have to figure out what that action is, of course. But um, whether that's just AI alerting us to the fact that that exists is one piece, or if it can take the action, that's another piece that we're continuously working on, right? So being able to provision users within Microsoft, right, and having our AI work with, you know, say in a more agentic fashion of Microsoft AI, that's a piece we've been working to sort through. Um, Another good example would be even on the admin side, right? Every hour that an MSP is working on admin work is an hour that you're not billing the way you likely could or should. Um, in my opinion, you know, we've built out a good way to cut down on some of that admin work, even things on the billing side, right? When are our contracts expiring? You know, we don't even have a on our end, we never had a robust, say, contract software, right? So we would throw everything into a now a Panda Docs or a DocuSign or something similar. There are some tools even within there, but generally speaking, if it's not alerting you, hey, a contract's about to run out, right? Um, you know, there should be opportunities for prompting for that. So we've loaded those into our AI. It knows our internal documentation really well. We've trained it on a lot of that. And from that, it can alert us proactively, hey, you know, next week you've got a couple contracts coming due. You're going to want to re-up those so that they're not just on a 1 year cycle or something to that effect. So my point is there's the IT side of it for AI, and there's also the admin side of it, and then layers to all of that.
Amazing. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Devin. I think I got whatever I wanted from you. So it's a good
No,
success.
there's actually a lot more use cases that I think some of our participants, if you want to post them on chat, we'd love to pick them up during the Q&A later. If you can, come up with any other ideas from your side that you think AI can apply, please, post
Yes.
it on.
Yes. And I can then go back and ask Damo about when those features are going to come within the product.
Once a pre-sales, always a pre-sales. Like you cannot do this, man. Uh,
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's very interesting because I got a few things out of Devin. So like on the admin side, it's really interesting because whatever we've seen is always perspectives from an MSP or an IT team in terms of like on the IT what they need to do in terms of eliminating this grunt work or taking the repetitive manual work off the plate and so on. But it's interesting to understand how it's going to work on the admin side as well, which gives us a lot to think about, which is hey, not just the IT processes that can be automated using AI or handed off to AI as such, but these areas, like you said, has really opened us about on saying, hey, okay, we have opportunities here as well. So that's an interesting point. And another thing is that you'd mentioned, which is the whole like whatever is within SuperOps as such. So we've seen that take off a lot of repetitive manual work as well, which is the recommended solutions or like be it the suggestions for scripting that comes within the tool as such. So if you have like if there are customers or in this call, I would love for you to go talk to your customer success managers to understand what these features can do to you, because like Devin mentioned, one of the things that has drastically improved based on the recent customers that we spoke to, or people who are really happy with the tool and processes, because we usually do that check, right? As a tool, we want to ensure that our partners are happy with where they are, and like are they headed in the right direction in terms of where they want to be. So one of the things that we realized is like when it comes to adopting AI within the product, those areas, especially in the ticketing, it has really helped them, because the whole part of recommended solutions or rephrasing that the whole emails that's sent to the end users, or even documenting the time entries, which has been a huge challenge of for a lot of MSP, which is, hey, I have my techs do the job really well, but when it comes to tracking that time onto a ticket, I have to tell them every week about it, because it's understandable, right? So it's exactly the kind of admin work that Devin spoke about from a technician perspective, saying, hey, I'm doing all of that, and on top of that, you want me to write it really well and say, hey, I've worked on this for an hour or so, so that we can show that to the customer. So most of it is offloaded from a technician right now. Like we've done a couple of changes where, as they send an email, if they find that solution that they send to the client to be the actual work that they've done, it's now possible to select all of those text and just convert that as a time entry, which has been a game changer for a lot of technicians, because they don't have to take that from an email, then put it into a chat GPT, tweak it, and then make it a work log and add it into the ticketing system. So that has been really excellent. And another key challenge that you mentioned, which is onboarding is something that we've heard a lot as well, not just from an MSP, from an IT team as well, because they have employees who are joining in, and it's the same process. They have to provision licenses, ensure that their account is created within Active Directory, give all the softwares that they need, and process automation is something that we've doubled on as well. So if you haven't used something called as run books within SuperOps, it's high time you start adopting that, because we've seen that to have changed a lot for an MSP, because you can document all the processes, put together and automate it in an intelligent way, so that somebody new joining your team doesn't have to go through all the processes again. So if they already know what you're doing for onboarding, they sort of have all that intelligence within the ticket that they can go right after, as soon as they're assigned that onboarding ticket. So these are some of the areas you know that SuperOps has been helpful for a lot of MSPs and IT teams. So just wanted to touch up on that point. And yes, so which these are some of the areas that we wanted to talk about so that MSPs and IT teams can start adopting AI, at least on like a first level when it comes to, even if it is something as basic as writing an email, that still makes a change than the older ways that they are used to. So that's pretty interesting to know as such. And which gets us to the final segment right now. This is my this is another interesting segment, which is how should a PSA-RMM tool, or how should a tool that's supporting an MSP or an IT team has to ship products, or how do they approach the whole AI angle today, considering all the growth challenges that we have discussed so far? So I think we can get started with Damo first, so that he can share his perspectives on that. And then we can go to Devon to sort of probe into his expectations and say, hey, you guys are doing this and the other vendors are doing this, but this is what we actually want you to do. So that's sort of the thing that we can discuss. So let's hear it from you, Damo. Damo, I think you're on mute.
Sounds good, Sriram. And thank you for that question. Actually, what we have tried to do as SuperOps, especially because we've historically built platform in a very workflow-based manner. SaaS, if you look at any other platform, including Salesforce, whatever, right? It's all like trying to figure out how to take information from the user using clicks and information on the screen, and then making them go through steps to see some result, right? That has been the whole pages and tabs and all those things that you can see in most SaaS applications. With AI, especially agentic AI, what we need to do, what we have, I mean, as a philosophy itself, what we decided is that we are going to embed AI into the core of our offering. What that means is we have to design every feature with the idea that AI is the primary way of actually doing this in the future, right? So that is something that we had to look at every feature. So every feature that's like having 10 steps to do and end up with the job being done, like, sending out a patch, for example, we now get to reimagine and write it in a way in which AI can make a lot of those decisions, not need that much input to be given to it automatically, because it can glean it from whatever else you're doing within the platform, and then come to the user only for things that need manual intervention, right? And this has fundamentally changed how we build anything for SuperOps. So all the features that you mentioned, and also all the features that we're building right now, they're all based on this agentic workflow, where what we are trying to do is to build several agents within SuperOps, some of them ambient, which is as in they'll wake up when a certain event happens, like an SLA gets triggered, for example, or will happen as a workflow of doing triaging, right? And then what that will happen is AI will try to accelerate the journey in such a way that you can do it in a very different way with less time and give you more value, right? And so that is the way we are trying to approach our build itself. Pretty much all the features that you're seeing, summarization, like you mentioned work log summarization, even the script generation, all that sort of feeds into that way of accelerating how quickly can, even knowledge base, deflection, all the things that we have shipped sort of helps the MSP, especially the technician and the owner, derive value by going faster in a very different way, right? But one thing that we're very conscious about is none of this is autonomous. And again, because we shard the data in such a way that there is no data being shared between MSPs, and we have very strict data policies that we follow, right? So given that, what we end up doing is giving the MSPs the power to create the best version of themselves within SuperOps for every single layer. So that is the reason why we start semi-autonomous, so that they can train the agent. So anything that you'll see in SuperOps, right, is nothing is autonomous. It has to be started by you. There'll be a default mode, and it'll train and get better over time. That's the best way we see adoption working for the MSP and IT teams. And actually, this is going to be the trend for the next year till we see real true autonomous, because building autonomous is actually very easy. It's just that it will do crazy things and you have no control, and no MSP wants to have autonomy, for the sake of lack of control, right? So the control is a very important piece. So we build that into our philosophy, the way we build and we ship, and the control is always there in SuperOps.
Amazing, though. And one of the points that you touched upon, which is like not looking to add AI onto the platform for the sake of it, but baking it into every feature that comes through, because that sort of is the key component. Because we're not asking how I can add AI on top of a ticketing or an endpoint management solution. Like we're asking like what an endpoint management or a ticketing solution should ideally look like in the agentic AI era. So that's kind of the right approach in terms of thinking about how we ship a roadmap and features as such. And interesting, you pointed out. Some of the really helpful workflows for a technician or a business owner as well. Like the whole script gen has been like a game changer for a lot of technicians, because there are L1 folks who knows the logic of a certain problem, who are not tech savvy, who doesn't have a lot of coding skills as such. But those folks have been able to leverage the whole AI script gen, like test that out on instances and then ship it out. So what this is done for an MSP or an IT team, it has expanded the scope of an issue that can be handled by an L1 or an L2 technician, so that MSPs can have their best technician work on larger clients or use them for acquisition and expansion. And the number of L3 escalations that it has cut down has been significant. Like for instance, earlier when it used to be like, just to get some bias information from a Windows asset, or troubleshooting something using the command prompt, and all of it has been like a tedious process. Only option that you had was just Google it and do a trial and error and figure things out. Now that has changed. Like your script gen is helping you troubleshoot what's wrong, test it out on an instance, and then go deploy it in production so that you don't break things as well. So that's been pretty exciting. And on the larger front, it's given MSPs the bigger picture on where their MSP stands, like something like the efficiency report summarizations and so on. It exactly tells you, hey, your technicians are spending a lot of time in these areas. Maybe you need to fix something fundamental about it, so that they don't spend 3 hours there instead of an hour. So that's
And the
that's
best part is we're just getting started, Sriram. So what we're moving to in terms of building what's next is all around
Mhm.
trying to build more, more semi-autonomous AI, but around patching, services management, triage I mentioned. There's
Mhm.
also going to be, L1, L2, like persona-based agents that's going to come out, as well as, support agents for pretty much every role within the MSP, right? So that everybody will have a sidekick to get started, and then there will be AI that sort of like orchestrates all this also together as you grow and train them all together. So lots of exciting things to come as well, Sriram.
Amazing. My favorite thing, like before I want to ask Devin about what his expectations are. My favorite thing about one of the features that came out recently is the AI patch summary and so on. So what this and the sentiment analysis. So what this is basically done is, you want to know if a particular patch is absolutely safe to deploy or not. You don't want to push that out to thousand of your endpoints and then regret it for a whole month. So what MSPs or technicians usually do is they go on forums, Reddit threads, Facebook groups, so to sort of see if somebody else has done it, or just have a production laptop that they test it in, and then deploy it to the rest of the users. Like now the solution is able to give you all those summaries. Hey, this is what this particular patch does, and this is the general sentiment around this patch, so that you can act on it. Because this has been a key insight. Earlier, we just used to have a single line description of a patch along with the KB number. Having that sort of context as to what it does and uh, what happens, or what's the general sentiment around it, has been really helpful. And I want to thank MSPs and IT teams such as Devin, who's helped us, sort of bring these things into the product workflow, because that's where the larger value lies, right? So, yeah, that's one thing. And yes, Devin, now let's hear it from you. Like, what are your expectations, not just from SuperOps, but like any vendor as such? Uh, where do you see scope for improvement?
Yeah. Yeah, great. From my perspective, there's really internal and external AI. SuperOps is an internal tool for us, of course. So I think that there's internal AI that will be really important for our future. I spoke earlier about how MSPs, I think often MIPs, if you want to get right into it, right, will often go between um, being reactive and proactive. I think proactive risk flagging is probably a big future spot for AI that I see, right? So pulling context from whether it's SuperOps or all of our tools before a client feels a pain, right? I'm a big believer in hospitality, even in a B2B environment where uh, our best way that we can serve a client is by having that forethought to be predicting and understanding what issues a customer is going to have and be solving them before they become issues. So that could mean spotting trends and tickets, right? Understanding and noting asset life cycles that are happening, or even just feedback on from upcoming issues. I think that sort of capability, it's not something I'm expecting to just appear. I know that again, it comes in layers. It's probably gradual across an entire system. But I think something that's a bit more active and a bit more forward thinking versus the AI of today, I would say for the most part, that we leverage ourselves tends to be a little bit more, hey, here's my problem. Let's find a solution, or AI go find that solution and implement that solution. While that's good, I think that there's a proactive piece to that as well. And then I'd also say flipping that script, um, again, not just the internal AI, but the external as well. There's a lot of opportunity on the external AI side, and I would call that the AI offerings that an MIP would bring to a client, right? So, um, big things that we are looking to do is productizing an AI offering, right? And being able to bring that to the market and say, we just launched our first survey recently to see who would be interested in some more custom AI solutions. So I think that there's something to be said for being able to productize that AI, find solutions that customers are interested in. And then on top of that, you probably need those internal tools again to create and implement that external AI. So, it goes really hand in hand. But I think more opportunity to productize AI is big. I think I've seen marketplaces that are looking and slowly scaling up this idea of, hey, we have agent models that you can effectively implement, right? The basics. Open AIs of the world do that to some extent. I've seen other models where what we've done is where you can kind of build your own
Mhm.
agents, and they'll have varying amounts of success and varying amounts of trial and error to get them to work. And I think the quicker that we can get agents moving, the quicker we can build an agent the way we want it to, or train an agent the way we need it to work for a specific client, the better off we are.
Amazing, Devin. I think you summed it up pretty well, like in terms of where we want to get to, which is like the whole concept of managed intelligence provider is like, you're moving from being a service provider to an intelligence provider means you are going to be more proactive in the future in terms of saying, hey, these are the potential areas where we see as risks for you. And you identify that and mitigate them with your clients. So, like moving away from like a traditional way of fixing things when they break to going be to a proactive state where you're not just providing services anymore, you're providing that intelligence for the companies so that they can move forward with their IT infrastructure and so on as well, is absolutely crucial. And I think we've pretty much covered all the broader areas that we wanted to address today. And finally, on the closing thought, which is both internal as well as external, uh, if, like it's it closes the loop, right? It's the complete circle. So you shouldn't be focusing on just the tool that gets you done things on an operational level, on a strategy level, but it's how you start adopting AI as a company on an external level as well, saying, hey, this is how we would bake the service offerings uh, into our existing business so that clients can see value from it. I would just like to have a separate session with you just to explore that, because that's something that everybody wants to know. Because how do I bake now that I have all of this intelligence? How do I, start adding that as a part of my offering? How do I put a price to it? Like, how do I sell the value to it? So I'll wait for you to run your experiment, and I'll talk to you again so that we can set up a separate session. So that, because I see great value in that, because that's the next stage, right? So once I
Yeah.
become managed intelligence provider, what's the intelligent of use to me and my clients? So that's something that where we are headed towards. So amazing. Let's just give it a minute to see if there are any questions, like everybody who's tuned in. So if you have any questions for our host, so we'll just give you a couple of minutes to address that, or we can just take it offline as well. No worries. So. Yes, but thank you so much, Devin and Damu, for your time today. I found this conversation really interesting because we had great perspectives from somebody who's doing it, like I said in the beginning, and somebody who's supporting the growth through building the products. Amazing. And apart from whatever we discussed, is there any one single thought that you would like to leave our users with? So,
I'm
Damu.
gonna let Devin go first.
Okay.
What a question. Yeah, if I had to leave everyone with one thing, I think I'd say we're all probably a little bit, one, dare I say, already fatigued and too overwhelmed with AI as an idea. There's a lot of talk about it. You see a lot of folks in a lot of different places. Some folks are using it everywhere. Others may just be starting to implement it and trying to understand what it is. A reminder, I think, for everyone that this is an iterative process, right? This is not something that happens overnight, and it's not a one size fits all solution for everything. It takes time and effort, and still currently, a good amount of work to get it to really solve problems in a big way. There are small solutions and there are easy paths that AI is already carving for us, and that changes rapidly at every moment of the day. I think that there's new developments there, but don't let the overwhelm of it all stop you from diving into it, because I think that there's a lot of good for the future there. It just takes a little bit of that first investment, I think.
Amazing, amazing. I
Yeah.
think we have a question as well before we get it down. What are some key focus areas when building the framework for an AI-driven MSP? So that's one of the questions that we've gotten. So if anybody would like to take a jab at it, Devin?
Yeah, key focus areas for building the framework. Good question. My background is in user experience design, actually, before I got into business ownership and before I got into MSPs. I think that you need to start with understanding and empathizing with whoever that end user is going to be, whether that's yourself or whether that's a client, and understanding the key steps that need to happen to get you where you want to go. So you need to be hyper specific with your definition of what is success in this regard, right? Is it a new user is created in a Microsoft provision environment of some sort? And then what are all the exact pieces that need to go into making that possible, and defining out those steps really clearly. If you're in a situation, right, to where I took this question, I suppose, was if you're looking to build an AI framework. I think it's about breaking down the steps very specifically, very clearly, and then lining up how they need to happen. Often there's an order to a lot of that, right? Um, and making sure you've really crossed your T's and dotted your I's on that, because um, leaving some of those gaps causes some issues. I don't know if that answers the question exactly, but that's my take on it.
I think it does to an extent.
Yeah,
Damu?
and I can actually echo what one of the members of our cab is an MSP who's Corey has done AI from last year actually. And they're not very big. They're like I think a 10 or 7 or 10 tech MSP. They do construction. Construction is their main clientele also. So it's not like they have a very, AI specific. So their adoption story is actually incredible, right? So what he mentioned to me was like how the framework that I think sort of has been working so far, and again, this is going through some cycles, is first to understand like what is the business model transformation that you're going after, and figure out how to like deliver outcome based services. You want to, you have AI enabled SLAs now, you have bundled offerings, right? Security, automation, all that stuff that you can offer, and you can offer outcome based services. So understand that it's no longer going to be like time and material kind of a business model, and more of like outcome, like almost like a consultant, right? Outcome, I'll come deliver this thing for you that will help you shape your trajectory as an end customer, not just as an MSP, right? So that is one thing, understanding the business model context, and then figuring out how you want to like build out your whole AI driven operations based on that context with data, right? Like a simple example is like, how would I take all this stuff if based on what I'm seeing from this customer in my PSA-RMM and other, like maybe in the Microsoft environment, and using that to like figuring out what are the high repetitive workflows that I can apply AI and show you value, that I'm actually moved past being just a plain service provider, right? And then once you do that, start in small step, as Devon mentioned, just start small, and then build up a technician empowerment program where multiple all your technicians start talking in that mindset, and so that transformation is what's going to help you like build and become an AI driven MSP over time, right? And again, it's not a one day thing. You have to start small. You have to define KPIs and things very differently from what you did before. But starting with the business model and working out these steps, I think has been something that I think I've learned from one of our cab members. Happy to share with you offline if you want to ping us like this. I think there's a whole transcript that he shared with me on I think the previous Super Summit as well, Sriram, where
Um,
how this is done and how
yeah.
to look at security and ethics and all that. So we'll I'm just telling you what I recollect, but we're more than happy to engage with you offline. And actually, that's the other thing that we wanted to that I want to share in this sentiment, right? This is not a simple thing that you should be able to learn from a webinar and apply. There's a lot of conversation happening in like the SuperOps AI community, for example, where there's a lot of conversations, not just on agentic AI, but like all the things that Sriram mentioned, like the use cases, where are my problems, how should I become an AI MSP, all those things are there. There are thousands of MSPs there who like talk through, and so it's more of like a community based decision of what will work for you. I think that I think will scale over time. I think everybody's inventing it as we speak.
Amazing, amazing. I think yes, like you can always reach out to us, and we can. The whole point of this webinar is to start the conversation, which I think we did pretty good there. So, if you want to know more about whatever we've spoken so far, or if you want to keep this conversation going, just shoot us an email. So you can write to our support, or like you can write to your customer success managers, and it's easy to get through to us so that we can sort of keep this conversation going. And I think you guys have summed it up pretty well, because like the whole AI process is going to be iterative. So that is going to be the process here at with respect to any AI model that we are going to implement. So I'll just drop in the email ID that you can engage with in the chat so that you can get started with. And like finally, I think we are above the time limit that we set for ourselves. So I would just want Damo to talk about something that he's been working on. It's been really exciting. That's in the shape. So as a closing thought, so that we can end on that note. So he's been doing a lot of these research on AI, and he's been working on something interesting. So I would want to probe you on that and just listen to that before we close this conversation out.
Sure, I'll just do a quick summary. I'm sure we'll have a longer conversation on that, Sriram, as well. From like as I mentioned in my previous answer as well, right? What we're trying to do is to actually see whether we can first sprinkle AI across the board in SuperOps, so that everybody can get the feeling of how AI works itself. But right now, everything in SuperOps is a click, right? A click away. You have to click and get the AI to work for you. Over time, what we are going to build and actually building a slew of is ambient AI that will detect where you are within the workflow automatically and pop up and help you and complete your journey, right? So that is something that we're working towards. The triage agent, patch management, workflow balancing, SLA management, all those are those kind of agents. The other ones like the employee support level 1, level 2, full stack agents, which will use a combination of these sub agents like ticket triage and others to sort of do work in a certain manner, like almost like a junior technician that you can train and adopt over time. So that is some of the things that we're cooking up for the next few months. But very fast, things are happening very fast, guys, and especially with the launch of a marketplace, we have a lot of space for us to discuss and create more value for the MSP. So looking forward to it.
Amazing, amazing. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining in us today. And great conversations from both Devon and Damo as well. So, Devon, I'm gonna hold you onto it. So I'm gonna come back to you while you run the experiment, and we need to have a chat about it separately, which is like, hey, how do I position myself as an managed intelligence provider? So that's a conversation for us to have, and
Please do.
yeah,
Looking forward to
amazing. Like I have you on record for that.
it. Wait,
So
is this
we will.
recording or are we
Yeah. And Damo, yes. So, like, he's been doing a lot of research, and he also has a book that's coming up in terms of that talks about whatever his opinion or his thought process in terms of research that he's done on the AI front as well. So, that is something that's going to be interesting to get your copy and just go through what the larger perspective is, because everything cannot be covered in our. Earlier when we started this, we were thinking, hey, would we have something to discuss for an hour? Now we are like 10 minutes above our time limit. But thank you everyone for your patience. Thank you so much for joining in today. And this is not going to be a one-off webinar as such. We're going to continue this series. So this is the starting point of the AI thought leader that we want to begin with. We had it done, and we're going to keep talking about it, share more insights, and keep the conversation going. So stay tuned, and we have a lot of interesting things to come up. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, guys.
Thank you all.
Just-
Appreciate the time.